for the solar tube is see how they put a cap over the top? So it's setting down on it, so it's even harder for the water would have to build up to get up underneath there. That's why if you've ever seen the plumbing vents, some of them have little caps or hats on them. Okay? That's what they're for, is to keep the water from the rain and all that coming in. I mean, it's a 2 or 3 inch hole in the rain. I'm really not sure how much that affects it, but the plumbers say it does. So anyway, so for this, they screw it into this tube, which goes like this. Maybe they show a little section of a solar. Okay, let's do that. That's a really bad example of one because that's like level. So see how this plastic thing is? See where it sets out here? Well, it also does it here, but this is tucked up under the shingle, so when the water comes down, it goes around the tube. Unlike a flat window where the water comes down and it stops, it has to divert itself around it, so they're going to put these little boards or stuff up there called diverters. R.G. Moore in the late 80s, early mid-80s, he put a lot of them over his little cheap houses, and he put wood up there. Right idea, right? What does wood do? Rot, right. So not only did it rot, but then he had nails in it because that's how he put it up there. So he's having the water dam up against wood, which then makes it rot. Then he has holes where he put the nails through it, which makes the water come in. A lot of damage with that. So maybe this one will show you better. Yeah, there you go. I don't know where my zoom is. But this is your flashing. This will be your counter flashing over here. And then your top piece that sits over it. So there's really no way for the rain to get into it unless one of these components fails. Okay. Other types, let's see here. We did skylights, light tubes. We covered both of those at the same time. Typically, solar tubes are going to be 10 to 14 inches, not much more. But they can flood a walk-in closet with light. We used 9 or 10. Well, a friend of mine used 9 or 10 of them on the Renaissance Academy to get some light into the interior spaces, and he was even surprised at how well they worked. So there's a lot to be said for them. I just don't like the big zit that sits on the roof, because that's kind of what it looks like to me. So you got your different styles of windows. Google is a great tool for this stuff. Here's your various styles of windows. They don't have jealousy on there. That's sad. So other ones have it. Ah, that's a good one to print. So any questions on that type of stuff? No? Okay. When we talked about the first day, I used a word called fenestration, and I didn't know what that meant. And eventually I told you it's the appearance of the facade and how it looks. That you create that fenestration with windows, okay? You can have windows flush. You can have one flush, one set back, another one flush. You can push a few back and bring it up. It's going to give you shadows on it. Okay, so is there any questions on that? No? All right, so the next thing we're going to talk about is a window section. Because you might not think it, but how the window looks or works is going to be a very critical component when you draw it. So here we have a window, okay? So, and we have a fixed window and a double hung window, or a single hung, but some form of a thing. So this can be in looking at it at the jamb or looking at it as a slider from the floor plan. Does that make sense? Okay. Now, the fixed window here, you got your double header across the top. That's typically a 2x6, two of them together. And then you remember when we had the doors, we had the two little pieces come down? Probably not. Window. How about window framing? Come on, I know it's in here somewhere. Whenever I don't want it. That's garages. Okay, so we're right here. All right, on. So here, this is the head. Everybody see that? Might as well print as much as I can because don't know if I'm going to have more printing paper next week. We'll get that to you in a second. So this is the head, which basically translates into this piece right here. Okay. And then down below it on the sill side, or the stool side, you're going to have these little pieces of wood that are like the king and the king stud and the jack stud that are going to support the window system above. Keep this part of the frame, the framed house, with you on every class, because we're going to use that as we move through the system here. Tried to get the college to buy a model house like this and put it together so people could see it, but it doesn't get me very far. Okay, so these two pieces down here, you see the difference? See how these are vertical and these are horizontal? Okay, these are going to be your sills, okay, for the window to support on. So when we're looking at this house, you're looking at this double system right here. Up here is a double system going vertically and then horizontally, okay? These little guys in here and these little guys up here are called cripples, okay? They're going to support the load above. So when you cut a hole in something, you got to transfer the weight. We all know that a roof weighs a lot, right? They do. They weigh a lot. So all of this weight has to come down through all of these components, and it gets to here, and this thing is spreading the weight down through here, but right in the middle, there's more weight, okay? 50% goes to one side, 50% goes to the other. Make sense? Okay? But when you take, so you got 50% coming down here, going this way and this way, well, what's left over is going to be more weight that's got to come down through here and transfer around. When you cut this hole in there, it's got to go around the two sides and then drop down here. So now You see how they double up down here? That's going to provide the support to hold all this members up. So when you're looking at a window in elevation, if you will, you've got this scenario going on. You've got the header, okay? You usually have the double top plate above. I know this is foreign to you right now because we haven't talked about walls. And then there's going to be this opening here, and on the other side. And then at the bottom is the sole plate, okay? And in the middle of these are cripples, and that diverts the weight above, down to the header, down to here. Your window is going to sit in here, like that. It's smaller than the opening. This is what we call the rough opening, from this stud to this stud, okay? So it fits in there and allows them to get it short up straight, because a lot of times what they'll do is they'll bring the window in. Pause for a minute.